Rental prices for office buildings in Beijing's CBD have begun to decline across the board, with a decrease reaching around 20%. A man working in Beijing's CBD stated that there is now a significant issue with commercial real estate across China. The real estate bubble has begun to burst gradually, with office vacancy rates in Beijing and Shenzhen hitting all-time highs. A decline in rent is an inevitable trend. As the city with the highest office rent in China, if Beijing can't withstand the downturn, it's needless to say that other cities will face the same. The man also revealed that friends who own office properties have reported that they can't sell or rent out their properties. He advised those considering purchasing commercial real estate to wait and not buy at this time.
告诉大家一个好消息，北京国贸 CBD 地区的写字楼的租金现在开始全面的下降了，幅度大概在20%左右。
He believes that the downturn in commercial real estate reflects the state of China's economy, which is becoming increasingly pessimistic. Halfway through 2023, China's economy hasn't rebounded post-lockdown as the outside world expected, but instead faces 5 major dilemmas. First, the primary reason for the sluggish Chinese economy is the performance of the real estate market. Office buildings have always been an asset type of great interest to investors. However, data recently released by commercial real estate companies such as Cushman & Wakefield and JLL shows that by the second quarter of this year, the vacancy rates of Grade A office buildings in Shenzhen, Shanghai, and Beijing were rapidly rising, reaching 24.5%, 18.6%, and 17.7% respectively. Compared to the first quarter, rents for office buildings have fallen to varying degrees, with some areas seeing declines of up to approximately 15%. If the housing market's downturn primarily reflects a decline in consumer confidence in the real estate market, the commercial market's downturn reflects a decrease in corporate confidence. Compared to consumers, companies' actions more directly signal the macroeconomic climate. What are the reasons for this trend? Analysts believe that the direct cause is many companies are starting to downsize, leading to a significant decrease in the demand for office buildings. Moreover, since the beginning of this year, China's macro environment has become increasingly uncertain, causing investment institutions to adopt a conservative approach, which results in smaller transaction sizes and amounts due to reduced investment demand. According to this homeowner, in 2017, he purchased an apartment worth 1.2 million yuan for his parents in Kunshan, a city near Shanghai. Recently, as property prices have dropped, he decided to sell the apartment. To his dismay, after contacting an agent, he was told that the current market price was only 500,000 yuan. If sold at this price, not only would he lose his down payment, but he would also suffer a loss. The homeowner knew that the property prices in China were generally falling, but he was still greatly surprised by the extent of the decline.
The number of second-hand homes listed in Beijing has reached 190,000, marking a downturn in the Beijing property market. As a result, buyers have become choosier, aided by their agents. He cited an example where a Beijing landlord listed a property for sale at 12.5 million yuan in late February. However, the agent asked for a 2 million yuan price reduction, or else they would not show the property to customers. Even with the reduction, the agent could not guarantee that the property would sell. In the end, the landlord decided to withdraw the property from the market.
Chinese people have long considered real estate a reliable investment and a means of storing wealth. However, the current turbulence in China's housing market has sounded an alarm for many. Data released by the Chinese Communist Party on June 30th shows that the construction industry business activity index fell from 58.2 in May to 55.7 in June, a 6-month low. Latest data from the China Index Research Institute reveals that in June, the average price of new residential housing in 100 Chinese cities was 16,179 yuan per square meter, a monthly decrease of 0.01%, matching the drop in May. The average price of new homes in these cities fell by 0.16% compared to the same period last year. Furthermore, the cooling down of prices in the second-hand housing market has been more significant. Data shows that in June, the average price of second-hand residences in 100 cities across the country was 15,746 yuan per square meter, a monthly decrease of 0.25%. The average price in May fell by 1.75% compared to the same period last year. So what are the prospects for the housing market? Analysts believe that property prices in all of China's 100 cities, including first-tier cities, will inevitably decline, especially in the second-hand residential market. An opinion piece published by mainland Chinese media points out that over the past 2 years, the Chinese government has launched numerous policies to boost the real estate market, such as lowering reserve requirement ratios, cutting interest rates, offering loans and bonds to real estate companies, suppressing intermediaries, and reducing down payments. However, what has been the actual effect of these measures? Currently, the real estate market still remains in a situation where properties are valued but not traded. In the future, housing prices in most Chinese cities will still undergo a drastic drop. According to several real estate brokers, housing prices in some communities in Hangzhou City of Zhejiang Province have fallen nearly 30% from their peak at the end of 2021. For this affluent city, which hosted the G20 summit in 2016, the significant drop in housing prices represents a sudden change. According to a Bloomberg report, a broker in Hangzhou who has been in the real estate business for nearly a decade stated, "In Hangzhou, I have never seen prices fall so quickly in such a short period." He added, "It is completely a buyer's market now." However, currently there are no signs that falling house prices are attracting new buyers to stimulate an economic rebound. Last year, the amount of long-term loans issued by banks to households was the lowest in nearly a decade. In the first 5 months of this year, borrowing decreased by another 13%, indicating a decline in the number of new mortgage applications. The second major challenge for China's economy is the continued weakness in consumer spending. In fact, the sluggish growth of China's economy has led to public concerns about employment and income, causing them to prefer savings over consumption. A restaurant owner revealed, "We can tell that the economy in China is really struggling just from the customers who order takeout from us. Before, one person would order 2 or 3 dishes for themselves. Now they order 1 dish and several people share it. Yesterday, there was an even more extreme case. A single-person meal was ordered, but they asked for 5 sets of chopsticks and 5 servings of rice. 5 people shared that one meal." Additionally, there are also people looking for jobs now. "In the past, we couldn't find enough workers. Now, when I open WeChat, I receive hundreds of messages. There are even applicants with higher education degrees like bachelor's and associate degrees. Life is proving to be tough." Data released by China's National Bureau of Statistics on July 10th shows that the Consumer Price Index in June fell by 0.2% compared to May. One possible reason for this slowing consumer price index could be the sluggish demand. At the same time, China's Producer Price Index, PPI, which measures the selling prices of manufacturers' products, dropped significantly by 5.4% year-on-year, more than 0.8 percentage points from May. This is the largest decrease since December 2015 and the 9th consecutive monthly drop. This signal of deflation in wholesale prices seems to be the result of decreased demand, which is a bad omen for Chinese manufacturers. As reported by Voice of America, while falling commodity prices might seem like good news for consumers, a general decrease in prices could actually be very bad news for the overall economy. Deflation exerts downward pressure on corporate profits, which in turn suppresses wages and employment, and reduces the motivation to invest further in production capabilities. High inflation presents tangible problems for consumers, but economists believe that low and stable price inflation is necessary for a healthy economy. The United States and other developed Western economies usually set an inflation rate of about 2% per year. When prices start to fall across the whole economy, extremely low inflation or deflation can seriously hinder economic growth. Xiaojing runs a toy store in Zunyi, Guizhou. She also had hoped that the end of the zero-COVID policy would encourage consumers to shop at the toy store, but the reality has been disappointing. Xiaojing told Bloomberg, "We've hardly made any money in the past 3 years, but business this year has even been worse than last year." Some major consumer-oriented companies have issued warnings about the pace of recovery, especially those like Estée Lauder, a cosmetics group that heavily relies on tourist spending. In early May, Estée Lauder stated that it was reducing its sales forecasts due to the economic recovery in Asia being much more volatile and slower than expected. The third major challenge for the Chinese economy is the sluggish export market. In recent months, China's exports have also been in a state of contraction. Data released by the General Administration of Customs on June the 7th showed that exports fell by 7.5% year-on-year in May, a rate of contraction much higher than expected. With demand from the US and Europe dwindling, exports are expected to continue to decrease. The decline in factory orders and consumer spending has left many small and medium-sized enterprises feeling uneasy about the future. Scott Young, a wine and tea seller in Wenzhou City of Zhejiang Province, told the Wall Street Journal that many local business owners he knows are laying off workers and trying to cut costs to cope with the drop in factory orders. Ji Shaofen, the founder of a small loan trading association in Jiangsu province, said the biggest problem for small and micro enterprises now is survival. According to the latest survey conducted by the Association of Small and Medium Enterprises in China, among 3,000 Chinese SMEs, less than 40% are operating at full capacity. Small businesses are a major source of employment. Wang Dan, the chief economist at Hang Seng Bank China, stated, "If small and medium enterprises do not recover, it will be challenging for urban areas to create sufficient jobs and income. This will significantly impact low to middle income families." The fourth major challenge for the Chinese economy: high unemployment rates. The scene at Beijing Station at 3 a.m. is telling. The plaza, bustling with people during the day, is now filled with individuals sleeping on the ground. A mat becomes a bed, a piece of luggage becomes a pillow. Some people sleep against the walls, others right in the middle of the square. Two elderly people are fast asleep against the wall. A man stays awake while his wife and child are sleeping. After a scorching day with temperatures reaching 40 degrees, the plaza floor is still as warm as a heated bed at night. If you see life and death in a hospital, then here you see life itself. The zero-COVID approach taken by China over the past 3 years has heavily impacted the economy, causing numerous businesses to go under. Major cities including Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen have seen a significant increase in unemployment, leading to a drastic rise in the number of homeless people on the streets. According to the person filming the video, despite the presence of hostels and hotels near Beijing Station, these individuals still choose to sleep on the streets. It's July now, and many new college graduates must be realizing how tough the job market is this year. Those students who were hoping to earn some living expenses through part-time jobs during the summer break are finding that even jobs paying 9 yuan an hour are non-existent. This year, every industry is facing immense difficulties, and the bar for hiring is at its highest. Even factories are being picky about who they hire to screw bolts. June 30th, 2023 was another night of breaking down and crying. I've lost count of how many times I've had emotional breakdowns. It feels like I'm constantly stuck in a cycle between anxiety and self-recovery. A recent graduate revealed that she often feels depressed due to job hunting issues after graduation. She was likely not successful in her part-time job interview yesterday, which ultimately led to her emotional breakdown. According to official data released in June, the unemployment rate among 16 to 24-year-olds has reached a new high since statistics were first collected in 2018, rising to 20.8%. Bloomberg reported that at a recent job fair held in Beijing, 27-year-old Wu Yuanhao said he was looking for a position in the e-commerce industry. However, all the companies are laying off staff, and wages are about 20% lower than when he was job hunting 3 years ago. Wu Yuanhao disclosed that the job hunting prospects are not as good as before, and the competition is actually very fierce. With high unemployment rates and grim employment prospects, university graduates are falling into the predicament of being unemployed upon graduation. In order to make ends meet, many young people with university degrees or higher are forced to give up white-collar office jobs and opt for blue-collar jobs that require physical labor, such as delivering takeout, serving as waiters, distributing flyers, working as laborers, or becoming ride-hailing drivers. Not only are ordinary citizens facing financial constraints, but local governments in China are also finding themselves in a financial predicament. Land sales have traditionally been a major source of revenue for local governments in China, typically accounting for over 30% of their income. However, the real estate crisis that has spread across the country in the last 2 years has led to significant decline in land sales. Meanwhile, the Chinese Communist Party's zero-COVID policy over the last 3 years has caused local government expenditures to soar. Investment bank Goldman Sachs estimates that the total local government debt in China, including official government borrowing, local government financing platforms, and debts held by policy banks, amounts to approximately 23 trillion, equivalent to 126% of its GDP. With costs soaring and income plummeting, local governments have been borrowing to bridge the gap, using local government financing vehicles (LGFVs) to help them cover project costs. The loans obtained through LGFVs, which do not appear on balance sheets, have become hidden debts for local governments and constitute a major risk. The current predicament facing the Chinese economy is already quite severe, but according to Bloomberg, what's worse is that Xi Jinping's administration has no good options for addressing these issues. Beijing's typical practice of stimulating demand through massive initiatives has led to an oversupply in real estate and industry and a surge in local government debt levels. Analysts believe that Xi Jinping's more assertive stance in dealing with the United States has exacerbated this situation. This has prompted the US government to cut off the supply of advanced chips and other technologies to China in order to curb the military ambitions of the Chinese Communist Party. Bloomberg Economics predicts that by 2030, China's economic growth rate will slow down to 3%.